lofty stone walls. Ahead, the fire in the massive hearth was unlit, adding to the lack of welcome. Sidonie shivered as cold seeped up from the flagstones beneath her hearth boots. Behind her, the heavy door slammed shut with a thud like the strike of doom. Startled, Sidonie turned to discover another, equally geriatric retainer, male this time, turning a heavy key in the lock. What in heaven's name have I done, coming to this God-forsaken place? With the door shut, the silence within was more ominous than the shrieking tempest without. The only sound was the sullen drip, drip, drip of water from her sodden cloak. Fear, her faithful companion, since Roberta had confided her plight, settled like lead in Sidonie's belly. When she'd agreed to help her sister, she'd assumed the torment, however horrid, would be over quickly. Inside this dismal fortress, the horrible premonition gripped her that she'd never again see the outside world. You're letting your imagination run away with you. Stop it. The bracing words did nothing to calm spiraling panic. Bile rose in her throat as she followed the still silent housekeeper across acres of floor. She felt like 1,000 malevolent ghosts leered from the corners. Sidonie tightened numb fingers around her bag's handle and reminded herself what agony Roberta would endure if she failed. I can do this. The stark fact remained that she'd come so far and still might fail. The plan had always been risky. Arriving here alone and vulnerable, Sidonie couldn't help considering the scheme devised at Barstow Hall feeble to the point of idiocy. If only her clamoring doubts conjured some alternative way to save her sister. The woman still shuffled ahead. Sidonie was so rigid with cold that it was an effort forcing her legs to move. The man had offered to take neither her cloak nor bag. When she glanced back, he disappeared as efficiently as if he numbered among the castle's ghosts. Sidonie and her taciturn escort approached a door in the opposite wall, as imposing as the door outside. When the woman pushed it open, it shifted smoothly on well-oiled hinges. Steeling herself, Sidonie stepped into a blaze of light and warmth. Trembling, she stopped at one end of a refectory table extending down the room. Heavy oak chairs, dark with age, lined the table on either side. It was a room designed for an uproarious crowd. But as her gaze slowly traveled up the length of board, she realized, apart from her decrepit guide, only one other person was present. Jonas Merrick. Bastard offspring of scandal, rich as Croesus, power broker to the mighty, and the reprobate, who tonight would use her body. Maester, the lady be here. Without straightening from his careless slouch in the throne-like chair at the room's far end, the man raised his head. At this, her first sight of him, the breath jammed painfully in Sidonie's throat. From nerveless fingers, her bag slid to the floor. Swiftly she looked down, hiding her shock under her hood. Roberta had warned her. William, her brother-in-law, had been merciless in his excoriations on Merrick's character and appearance. And of course, like everyone else, Sidonie had heard the gossip. But nothing had prepared her for that ruined face. She bit her lip until she tasted blood, and fought the urge to turn and flee into the night. She couldn't run. Too much depended upon staying. In childhood, Roberta had been Sidonie's only protector. Now Sidonie had to save her sister, no matter the cost. Hesitantly she lifted her gaze to her notorious host. Merrick wore boots, breeches, and a white shirt open at the neck. Sidonie tore her gaze from the shadowy hint of a muscle chest and made herself look at his face. Perhaps she'd detect a chink in his determination, some trace of pity to deter him from this appalling act. Closer inspection confirmed that hope was futile.